all radio land. Welcome to another Dream Makers 365, an IntellectualRadio.com radio talk show. Again, we're glad that you tuned in with us on tonight. Our sponsor of this show, like all of them, is the president and CEO of My Full of Beauty Incorporated. That is my great friend, Mr. Martin Casey. Without him, not be any Dream Maker 365 talk shows. So you might be asking the question, why Dream Makers? Of course, this show, like all of our shows, has a threefold purpose. Number one, this show is set up to teach African American history. As far as I'm concerned, we want to do it 365 days a year. And that is pretty much the name of this show, Dream Makers 365. Secondly, we certainly would like to encourage and help people, inspire to be a voice to the voiceless. For people on this show, people that you may not get a chance to be on television and things of that nature, but you can sure be on YouTube and be a part of this IntellectualRadio.com show. And thirdly, this show is set up to share hope for people who are hopeless by sharing our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. As you know, being an ordained minister here in the United States of America, I could not do it without the blessings of Yeshua, or Jesus, as we would say, Jesus the Christ. So again, thank you again for tuning in. In memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was assassinated about 3 days from now, over 50 some years ago in 1968. Tonight, we're going to dedicate this show to him by discussing this most important topic, that he was instrumental in putting on the forefront in America, even the night before his murder, talking about how we need reparations, in so many words. So the question on the table tonight, as people are listening all over the country, and I have people even in Nigeria listening, is to talk about, should the United States, and that doesn't only include the government, should the United States repay for the damages done to our ancestors? And now we are the descendants of that horrible night in America. That night that lasted from, I believe, on paper, from 1619 until 1865, Brother Winfrey. A long night, 254 years, if my record serves me correctly. And not only that, we had to endure more years, add on another 100 years of Jim Crow, of separate but equal, they say. And so here we are, 2019, and still America has a check that continues to bounce tonight, Brother Winfrey. The check that Dr. King talked about on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, still coming back, saying insufficient funds. Here we are, and we're going to have a heck of a discussion tonight. My good friend, a native Mississippian who had pulled himself up by his own bootstraps by the grace of God, moved to Chicago and was successful in his own profession. And now he is known as one of the great researchers of reparations. It is because of him that ignited the flame inside me to do a show in such a time as this, the week of the assassination that happened to our beloved brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee, Lorraine Hotel, gave his life for garbage workers. That is incredible. So I want to discuss tonight, should the U.S. repay for the damages of slavery? It's on the table. If so, we need to talk about how. Or if not, I want to know why you feel that way. I'm going to put it all on the table. If so, how are we going to get this reparations? If not, if you don't believe so, tell me why. And I have documentation on both sides, Brother Earl, tonight. One is to tell us if you're in favor of it. I have my pros and I have documentation for my cons who are against. We're going to put it on the table. But before we do that, we are going to put the spotlight on a great American who decided to leave this country because he became unhappy. But I still need to talk about Dr. Randall Robinson, who is a law professor, an author, and an activist. He is best known, as far as I'm concerned, in America for his stance on reparations. And he's also one of those who push for Trans-Africa, where he lives on this night, Brother Winfrey. He lives in Africa, left this country unhappy because why America has not done justly by African Americans or Black Americans, if you want to be called that, in this country. But let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for Earl Winfrey for putting together this mighty, wonderful shows that happen in these studios here in Chicagoland. Thank you for One to Be, and thank you for all those who come in and out of these studios sharing information. God knows, from weight loss to gaining weight, whatever, I don't know, but discussing information that is important for the life of Black Americans and all Americans, to be exact. So we ask you in Jesus' name to be with us. Amen. So the spotlight on Randall Robinson, then I'm going to get into the issue that we've been waiting on, dealing with reparations. Randall Robinson, born July the 6th, 1941, a lawyer, author, and activist, noted as the founder of Trans-Africa, but I'm not going to talk about Trans-Africa tonight. He is known particularly for his impassioned opposition to apartheid, his advocacy on behalf of the Haitian immigrants and the Haitian president, Jean Bertrand Aristide, and his stance on reparations. He was born to the parents of Maxie Cleveland Robinson and Doris Robinson Griffin, both teachers. The late ABC news anchorman, and many of you may have heard of him if you're listening tonight, Max Robinson, was his elder brother. Randall Robinson graduated from Virginia Union University, earned his law degree from Harvard University. Also, his older sister is actress Jewel Robinson, and the younger sister, Pastor Jean Robinson. Both sisters live and work in the Washington, D.C. area. He and his former wife had a daughter, Annika Robinson, and a son, Jabari Robinson. He is married now to Hazel Ross Robinson, and they have one daughter, Kalia Ross Robinson. Robinson was a civil rights attorney in Boston from 1971 to 75, and I want you to hear this. Before he worked for United States Congressman Bill Clay in 1975, and he was an administrative assistant to the great Charles Diggs in 1976 and was awarded a Ford Fellowship. Robinson founded the Trans-Africa Forum in 1977, which, according to the mission statement, serves as a major research, educational, organizing institution for African American community. But what I want to talk about In 2001, he authored a book called The Debt: What America Owes to Blacks, which presented an in-depth outline regarding his belief that the wide-scale reparations should be offered to African Americans as a means of redressing what he perceives as centuries of discrimination, you got that right, and oppression directed at the group. This book that we are talking about, The Debt, What America Owes, this book argues the reenactment or the enactment of race-based reparation program as a restitution for the continued social, economic issues in African American community, such as a high proportion of the incarcerated black citizens and the differential in the cumulative wealth between white and black Americans. Although some reviewers praise Robinson for delving into a controversial topic that had not been addressed in the mainstream media, others criticized him for reverse racism and asserted that his own personal success contradicted the dire portrait or portrayed of the conditions faced by African Americans living in the United States. But anyhow, Robinson, he begins teaching at Pennsylvania State University at the Dickerson School of Law in the fall of 2008. But in 2018, Robinson quit his position as the head of Trans-Africa and decided to immigrate to Africa in the St. Kitts, where his wife, who was a member of the prominent Keaton family, was born. A decision chronicled in his book, Quitting America. I repeat, Quitting America, Brother Earl, he says, a departure of a black man from his native land. He left this country. Disappointed. So Robinson's self-imposed exile was caused by what he describes as an antipathy towards America's domestic policies and foreign policies, both of which he believes exploit minorities and the poor. That, my friend, I want to salute Randall Robinson. Now we're going to get into the issue of reparations. Should the United States, as I raised the question a minute ago, and that doesn't include the government, but that includes businesses who have pocketed, even to this night, Brother Earl, have pocketed off of reparations. We are the descendants of these slaves. Should we get reparations? Let me lay it out to you tonight. Today, even the civil rights movement, the black American population on average has had high infant mortality rates. And the beat goes on. Lower life expectancy. On the west side, many people out on the west side do not live as long as people on the north side. That's the truth. High rates of unemployment. And the beat goes on. Lower income. Higher rates of imprisonment than white populations, and all populations to be exact. Some argue that these problems are a legacy of slavery brought on by society's discrimination and racism. So we first need to put on the table, is this a cause and effect of slavery? And the answer is yes. Are the conditions really a legacy of slavery? That's a question. If so, what should be? Some African Americans argue today that reparations, a sort of compensation for free labor blacks, was forced to render during 250 years of slavery, as I said earlier. Here's the idea of reparations. I want you to hear this before I call our special guest, Mr. Otis Moore. Reparations for slavery is not a new idea. Before the Civil War ended, this is important right here, Brother Earl, you're going to like this. General William Tecumseh Sherman issued an order in South Carolina. This is where that 40 acres and a mule come from. He wanted 40 acres and a loan of an army mule set aside for each former slave family. Did you know that? Isn't that something? I'm not done yet. This order was never carried out. After the war, radical Republicans in Congress passed laws requiring confiscation of former Confederate property to provide the ex-slaves. Here it is. This is where that 40 acres and a mule. They wanted to give the slaves 40 acres and a mule, but guess who caused that problem or that great thing to be set aside? It was Andrew Johnson, who was the vice president under the assassinated president Abraham Lincoln. He set us back, Brother Earl. Andrew Johnson, who was a native Tennessean, he said basically he vetoed the legislation. So there has been legislation, Brother Earl, in 1866 to give us some reparations. And the president, because of an assassination, Johnson decided that he did not want to give Black Americans 40 acres and a mule. And I often wonder, where did that come from? I always thought the Muslims always talked about them 40 acres and a mule. They talked about it because it was said by Andrew Johnson. Now, I heard Minister Farrakhan talk on YouTube, did a speech, and he said that we ought to have some land. I agree with that to some extent, as far as we got to find the land. Is it out there? Okay, some kind of reparations, but we're going to deal with it when I call my guest. But I'm not done yet. How much time I got? Oh, yeah, I got 15 more minutes. The next push for reparations, listen to this, took place at the turn of the century. Several Black organizations lobbied Congress to provide pensions. Listen to that. They wanted to give pensions for former slaves and their children. One bill introduced into the United States Senate way back, Brother Earl, in 1894 would have granted direct payments of up to, guess how much money? It was good money back then, up to $500 to all ex-slaves, plus a monthly pension ranging from $4 to $15. Good money back in 1894. But this and several similar bills, guess what? They died in congressional committees. This is our do-nothing Congress, even to this day. They're doing nothing. And I don't care if they're Democrats, and definitely don't care if they're Republicans. I'm going to tell it like it is. The pension movement itself faded away with the onset of World War I. So we're going to have us a war, and we're going to forget all about the fact that we need to give reparations to these slaves. And here we are in 2019, still asking for reparations. We should have done it. We should have done it then, and we won't even be having this conversation because the moral answer to the question is right. We should always do the right thing, no matter what. And it's always the right time to do the right thing. Always the right time. But I got to keep on moving. So my great friend, I love Mr. John Conyers. Had the chance to see him when I was a little boy growing up in Mississippi at my church, at United Baptist Church. John Conyers, he fought so valiantly hard to get introduced a bill, H.R. 3745, in November of 1989. The preamble of the bill declared its purpose to acknowledge the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, inhumanity of slavery in the United States and the 13th Amendment colonies between 1619 and 1865. Look at that. To establish a commission to examine the institution of slavery, subsequent de jure and de facto economic discrimination against African Americans, and the impact of those forces, listen to this, on living African Americans to make the recommendation to Congress on the appropriate remedies and its purpose. Now, get ready to call my guest in a minute, but I got to lay out this one too for you. I told you earlier, we've got people against reparations. I'll give you their reasons. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, Brother Earl. They're against it. I'm going to tell you why they're against it. I've got people that are for it. See, I'm laying out my plan. I'm laying it out tonight, and I'm going to lay it out to you clearly to where you can decide whether or not you're for or against it. So I'm going to give the people that are against it the benefit of the doubt. They say that there are no black slaves living today. Slavery ended 160 years ago at the cost of several 100,000 lives who lost in the Civil War. So they're saying that the payment for reparations, Brother Earl, is because of those dead white men, and there were black men who died in the Civil War. That to me is terrible, but that's what they say. It is unfair to ask American taxpayers, many of them from families that came to the United States after slavery ended, to pay for the wrongs of slavery. Oh, don't worry, I got some more stuff. I'm going to give you some information that's going to blow your mind tonight, guys, on who we already paid reparations to. Oh, I got my information. Okay. Number two, problems faced by African Americans today are not the legacy of slavery or even racism. Many blacks have succeeded very well or been successful very well in American society. The problems of the poor, African Americans, caused by social ills within the inner cities, such as the breakdown of families, high crime rates, and the dependence of welfare. So some of us have done well. That's true. We have a lot of people who are billionaires as Black Americans. We have a lot of people that are millionaires, but we still only touch the surface, Brother Earl, as far as income, economics in this country. We only control 1.5% of the wealth in this country. So there you go, Brother Earl. And I've been talking about that for over 2 years. I got to keep on moving. Okay, here's another one that say that they're against it. Federal and state governments have already spent billions of dollars on social programs such as welfare, subsidized housing, health care, employment development, affirmative action, and education. These programs have benefited African Americans. Okay, I hear your point there. I would rather get the reparations than to get these social programs. Put this money into creating jobs. Am I right, Brother Earl? Create some jobs in these social programs. Give these people jobs. Of course, there are going to be people out here who need SSI, who need some type of Medicaid. But some of these programs, put them into some job programs. Okay, revamp the whole American system. But I got to keep on moving. African Americans, particularly the young, need to overcome their problems through their own efforts and not depend on the government handouts and benefits. As Dr. King said so eloquently, how can a man pull himself up by his own bootstraps when he's bootless, Brother Earl? He ain't got no boots. How are we going to be able to help ourselves when we don't have any boots? He made that speech just a few months, if I'm correct, before they assassinated him. I must tell the truth about it tonight. Reparations would be too expensive to people that are against it, depriving the country of an opportunity to fix the Social Security and Medicare systems and meet other budget needs that benefit all Americans. That's one other problem. Don't put those two together. That's not right. Any reparation plan will lead to unfairness and huge administrative costs. We're going to have to deal with that. What would or who would receive reparations? Now, let's go to those who are for it. The claim for reparation is not against white Americans or even individual Americans. It is a claim against American government and society. The problems faced by many blacks today come from slavery and societal's ongoing racism. Blacks were uprooted from their homes in Africa, brutalized here in America by a system that destroyed the family structure and degraded the individual. I got to keep moving because I got to get to some statistics here in a minute. Talk about some money here. Welfare, subsidized housing, affirmative action, other previous efforts to address social problems of the black underclass have been too little and too late. Not enough. is basically what is being said. They failed because society has failed to come to grips with the central problem in its own racism and discrimination. In some cases, social programs, though well intentioned, actually increased Black isolation and further degraded the Black community. Reparations will not promote dependency. Instead, they will give individual African Americans and the community and the whole thing a chance to create their own economic base and become self reliant. That's the key. Creating jobs, creating businesses. And I know we have different programs in the government, but those programs are not really helping us as far as a loan and all of that. It's not good enough. The cost of reparations may be great, but the debt is owed and must be paid. Yes, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. It's always the right time to do right. Thank you, Dr. King. Just as it's too early to decide how much is due in reparations, it is too early to agree on how to distribute the reparations. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So here's my other facts. Mr. Moore is what ignited me, and this is what he came up with and put it on Facebook. Here are some history of reparations payments. Okay, I may go over about 2 or 3 minutes, but that's okay. Guess what? In 1990, United States of America gave $1.6 billion to 20,000 to gave $1.6 billion or $20,000 each to Japanese Americans. Brother Earl, did you hear that? Yeah, they did that. 1990. Check it. Do the fact check. 1990, Austria, 25 million to the Holocaust Americans, survivors. Jewish claims of Austria. 1988, Canada gave 250,000 square miles to the Indians and the Eskimos. We didn't even get no land. We didn't get no 40 acres, and we sure didn't get no mule. 1986, United States of America, $32 million went toward the 1839 Treaty of the Ottawas of Michigan. 1985, United States of America gave $12.3 million to some Seminoles of Florida, to the Indians there. Rightfully so. 1985, the United States gave $81 million to the Klamaths of Oregon, some more Indians. Are y'all listening to me tonight? 1985, 31 million Chippewas of the Wisconsin got some money. 1985 again, 10.5 million of the United States dollars went to the Sioux of South Dakota up north. Listen to me. 1980, United States of America gave $81 million, as I repeat, to the Klamaths of Oregon. That is a problem, as I've written it down and I have mentioned it to you. 1971, United States gave $1 billion plus $44 million acres of land to the Alaskan Natives settlement. Again, 1971, USA gave $1 billion plus 44 million acres of land to the Alaskan Natives. We got no land. 1954, Germany, $822 million went to the Holocaust survivors. Germany Jewish settlement. In 1865 to the present night day, the United States gave the slaves, the descendants of slaves, us, a big old fat $0, even in counting Jim Crow, with all the lynchings, people being lynched. We got nothing. So that's my case for reparations. But let me share this with you before I call my guest. Did you know slave owners received reparations? Yeah, Brother Earl, slave owners even got some money. April 16th, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed a bill ending slavery in the District of Columbia. Passage of this law came 8.5 months before President Lincoln issued his Emancipation Proclamation. The act brought to a conclusion decades of agitation aimed at ending what anti-slavery advocates call the national shame of slavery in the nation's capital. It provided for immediate emancipation, compensation to former owners who were loyal to the Union of up to $300 for each freed slave. And all we got, my four parents got, was some sweet potatoes. We got nothing. And the slave owners, former slave owners, got $300. And they even got payments of up to $100 for each person choosing immigration or immigration. Moving forward, going on. Over the next 9 months, the Board of Commissioners appointed to administer the act approved 930 petitions, completely or in part from former owners, for the freedom of 2,989 former slaves. I'm going to go ahead and call Otis Moore, one of the great researchers of some of this information that I've shared tonight of reparations. Let's give him a call.
Now is the time to prepare our hearts and...
All righty. We want to welcome you to Dream Makers 365 talk show on tonight. We are discussing a very important issue on reparations tonight. Should the United States pay reparations to Black Americans? Him will turn his radio down. Turn your radio down for me too, Brother Moore. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my radio down, sir.
It's down. Thank you. Thank you. Just heard an echo. Appreciate you, Dr. Moore. Now, I am so happy again to have you on tonight. We've got some questions to create dialogue and discussion. And my first question to you, Mr. Moore, as we have you back after we talked to you about your father, your legendary father, Mr. Amsey Moore. Now we're going to talk about, should the United States government, and that includes these businesses too, repay Black Americans reparations? Here's the first question. Do you favor, first of all, or not favor reparations?
Yes, I favor reparations. I think everyone wanting to work a job should be paid for their wages, for their sweat and their tears. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Here comes the next question. We're heating it up. How much money should the descendants of slaves get on this night? How much money?
My personal opinion, I think, is we worth at least $14 trillion. The way I calculate this money, they should give at least $14 trillion. That's the descendants of slavery.
Right. Now, let's talk about this $14 trillion. I did some research, and they calculated that there were probably over 222,500,000 hours of hard slave wages, hours spent, and they came up with a number even higher than that. And I thank you for 14 trillion, because I heard 14 trillion too. But tell me where you get the 14 trillion from.
Well, I add up over at least 500-600 years of slavery.
Thank you.
Without being paid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So another question. What if the government says we can do maybe one of these several of options here that I want to go over with you? And this is what's going to take up some time, and I want to talk about it in our 29 minutes. Now, some people have said, Brother Moore, that maybe if we give the reparations, and I want you to answer, agree or disagree with this for each one. How about they say we'll give free education to every Black American person who wants to go to college for the rest of their lives, as long as they maintain, of course, a C average? What about give the money to education rather than pay the $14 trillion the way you saying it? What do you think about that?
Well, I think they should go ahead.
Okay. You said what now? We should go ahead and do that?
We should go ahead with the money. Give some cash and some on education.
Okay. I got you. Because there have been studies done on it, and some people say, well, we should just give it to African Americans where they don't have to do a Pell Grant and apply for a scholarship. So if somebody wants to go to college and want a 4-year ride, just because we know and you know our children are descendants and we are descendants of slavery, then they should be able to go, let's say, to Alcorn State University, where I went and where you did attend as well, Alcorn State University. They should be able to go there without having to do some financial aid. What you think about that?
I go along with that, sir. Yes, sir. Why not?
All right. Now we talking. That's what I'm talking about.
I go along with historical black universities. I went to that university.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Now, there have been some other talk, and I'm going to say this one. Maybe we should fund a black organization, and I'll put this one out there. Let's fund the SCLC. You know, Dr. King was talking about economic justice the night before they assassinated him. So he didn't get the chance to live to see what we might get a chance to do is to possibly put some reparation on the table. They're still talking about it. So what do you think if they decide to fund an organization that will be able to help black people to start their own businesses? Do you think that would be a good thing?
I think that would be appropriate. But one more thing, I think,
Go ahead.
Reverend.
Go ahead.
They should set up some things for some programs of everyone's not going to be educated,
right?
Degreed.
There you go.
What about some skills? What about some trades?
Amen.
African Americans, some of those things, they still can live and put food on the table. You know what I'm saying?
Amen. I was thinking that too when you said that just now. Education, that could also mean a trade, because not everybody needs to be degree, because you know as well as I know there are people like you who were successful. You can tell them tonight that you were a heck of a what? Tell them what your profession was, and you did well at it, brother Moore. Tell them what it was.
Well, when I was going to Alcorn State University, my major business administration, business marketing.
Right.
I came to Chicago and I started being a professional truck driver. I drove a Roadway Express.
Yes.
For 32 years, I was a union organizer, union rep, union Teamsters, union organizer, and the union representative of all the drivers in the city of Chicago. So
yes, sir.
I done well over there as a Teamster. I retired at 50 years old. I had a full pension, full ride. So
there you go.
I've been retired for the last 10 years, so God was good.
God was good. He's good to you and still good to you now. You're doing great. And so in your retirement years, and you have your wife and your family and doing successful. So we know that many black men and women who may not want to go to college, maybe they could grow up and be like you, a professional truck driver. They could be a bricklayer. They could be an electrician. But we need money on the South Side. They got an election tomorrow. I love elections. I love mayors and presidents. But I'm going to tell you, Brother Moore, and you know as well as I know, that is not going to be enough. Reparations need to be on the table. It's just that simple.
Yes, sir. Now on the South Side,
go ahead.
West Side.
Yes, sir.
There's about 45 to 50% below poverty level on that side of town.
Hallelujah. I associate pastor at the United Baptist Church, and our church is in Lawndale. And they consider that, which I disagree with, but they say it is the permanently underclass. And I don't agree with that, but we know that there are people over there, as you indicated, 50% of the people over there who are living below the poverty and all of that. But I go to a great church over there. It's a beautiful edifice. So I thank God for that. And that takes me to my next question. Well, how about we take the reparations money and maybe give it out to the 250,000 black churches in America and see what they can do with the money? What do you think about that? What would be some of the things that could happen with that? You think the money could go to the black churches to help their communities where they live? What do you think?
Well, you know, my personal opinion about that, Reverend. I have no disrespect for the church.
No, go ahead.
But let's spread the wealth around like we was talking about earlier on educational basis.
Okay.
On health care, things of that nature.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We need some more positive leaders that will spread the money out fairly across the board.
Right. That we could do that. I think that would be a great thing too, as you indicated. Now, our biggest problem, as I talk to my producer who's here in the studio with us, and I've always said it, is as black Americans, as many millionaires they claim we got, y'all don't need no reparations. Y'all got Beyonce, you got Jay-Z, you done had your James Brown and Michael Jackson, all them billionaires and rich folks. That ain't enough, Brother Moore. We only had only control 1.5% of the wealth in this country, we still need a lot of help. What do you think about that?
I think you're 100% correct, sir. Plus, when all those guys get all those millions and all those billions, they never give back to the community where they left from, where they originated from.
Amen.
They go on to live a prosperous life and look back at the guys and forget they're over there. So that don't mean anything. If one guy rich in the neighborhood, everybody else poor, that don't mean nothing to me.
That don't mean nothing. And I had often said, I mean, I would hope that the celebrities would give. But one of the things that our great brother Dick Gregory said, he never liked to hang out with entertainers, and he didn't hang out with no athletes because he felt that they didn't really do anything for their communities. There are a few exceptions to the rule. You know, you have your LeBron James and so many other people that are trying to help. But the vast majority of these entertainers and other black celebrities, man, they're not doing anything for their communities. Brother Moore, what do you think about that?
Yes, sir. You're right there, Reverend. And the sad thing about it, those same guys that come up in those ghetto areas and them slummy wherever area they come out of, they don't even return back down there just to visit with the people, talk to the people, try to educate the people. They don't even go back that way. I'm one out of a few guys, Reverend, to this day.
Yes, sir.
I still eat on 63rd and Cottage Grove at Daily Restaurant. Been eating down there since 1968, since I was 10 years old. My uncle took me down to there.
Yes.
I still go back down and sit at least 4 or 5 times a week, eat breakfast and lunch, and hang out and talk with some of the guys.
Yes.
So we need somebody out to talk to some of those guys.
Yes, we certainly do. We certainly do. So our biggest problem is economics. We need to get Chicago back to what I understand it was right before the civil rights movement and somewhat a little bit after. But I heard there were so many black businesses on the south side of Chicago, and you came up here from Mississippi during those times. Is that correct? When you saw these black businesses, right?
Yes, sir. I started coming to Chicago in 1968, and I used to come every summer from 1972 till I finished high school in 77, and I moved here in 1978 to live.
Yes.
So I've been in out of Chicago all my life. And I remember all the prosperous being on the south side and the west side.
Wow.
And African American on everything on the south side. Back in those days, we had all the gas stations. We had Robert Fire in the room. We had 4 or 5 motels up and down 63rd Street, 47th Street, Stony Island. So blacks owned a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Back in those days, they were quite prosperous. But now we had Hell's Chicken, Doc's Fish, all that stuff on the south side. That's where it come from.
That's it.
And now the black guys don't own anything. You got more JJ fishing and shark fish around here in our community than anything, you know?
That's right. That's right. So we saw or you saw a glimpse of what it looked like when the money is flowing on the south side, on the west side, money staying in our community. Now we can't keep a dollar in our community no more than 3 or 4 minutes. The money get in our community. Soon as we get money, we spend the money. We don't want to start our own businesses. And now, if we get reparations, what we going to do with all that money? We need some of them people to start their own businesses. And that's really my beef about reparations is when you get your reparations, and I want you to get it, we deserve it. I want to see some of us start our own businesses. What do you think about that, Brother Moore?
I think that would be a positive way to do it, Reverend. You know, start some business, train some of these young guys, learn how to survive on these streets. Because some of these guys don't know how to take care of themselves.
That's it.
After my generation, your generation, Reverend, I don't know what to say about these guys behind us. They have no structure. They have no educational background, no skill, no trade. How you going to survive? You know how to take care of yourself, Reverend.
That's what I'm saying. So I think about this reparations. We get this money, and as soon as we get this money, instead of us thinking, why don't some of us start our own businesses? Because the purpose, you would think, of reparations is for us to revitalize the inner cities or areas like you and I grew up in, rural areas or towns where we need to bring the black businesses back. Your father was a guiding light, as you indicated, the only one on Highway 61 during the tumultuous 60s and beyond that had his own what? Gas station. Am I right about it?
Gas station, filling station, everything. On the black guy from Memphis, Tennessee, all the way to Louisiana, on Highway 61. As of the day, we call it, renamed it after B.B. King, renamed it Blues Highway 61.
Yes. That's right.
He was the only man that had a service station back in those days. That's true. And a restaurant.
That's it. So I'm again saying, as we continue to talk about reparations, is the fact that we want the money to come in our communities, but we better have a plan. So here's something else that I want to close with is when they give out the money, one of the biggest things they're going to say is, oh man, we don't know who's black, who's white. No, they said that if you got an ounce of what in you, that you black, right?
Black blood makes you a whole black man. And you know they wasn't lying.
That's
Barack
it.
Obama's mother was a Caucasian.
Yes.
European descent. But that one black African blood through the whole country, he was black.
That's right.
And they treated him as such.
Mm-hmm. They certainly did. So when they start handing out the money, God knows the reparations, anybody with an ounce of blood, a black in them, come on now. Hey, I mean, it is truth. We should get the money. So there are no excuses. We have lived a horrible night of slavery that lasted 254 years. And there are people that are saying, well, heck, we already got the money. We get welfare, many of our black people, but white people get it too. Am I right, Brother Moore? They getting it too.
Well, from what I read, a little town down in Arsenal, Kentucky, they have more guys unemployed, Caucasian, get more welfare than we do in the inner cities.
Yes.
They get more welfare than anywhere in the United States of America than one town.
That's right. So
nobody have a job there. It's way below the poverty level. But they focus on these big cities like Chicago, New York, Philly, D.C.,
come on.
Because we had the projects.
Right.
How the authorities up in the air, so they think that's where all the money goes. Now, whites receive more welfare and food stamps and government assistance.
They sure do. They sure do. So ain't no excuses. Well, we already giving the money to black people. They getting all of these social programs money. That money should be going to starting black businesses. I'd rather have that money going and creating businesses to revitalize our communities for the most part, instead of that money just going on welfare, as they say. That's a way of reparations. I thought that too. I must confess, I thought that too, Brother Moore, at one time. Well, heck, they're giving us food stamps, not me, but giving the people that need food stamps and things like that. But that ain't reparations. There ain't no excuse for that. We need to get the reparations. It's just that simple. Okay?
Well, from what I posted quite a few times on Facebook where the whole world can see, if it wasn't for the poor white guys that needed some assistance, it never would have been social food stamps anyway.
That's right. It never would have been. It never would have been.
They didn't give it out to the blacks or they love us or the brown.
That's right. That's right.
It was for the good old boys down in Kentucky, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, back in the woods, in the rural area.
There you go. There you go. And I noticed you put out on Facebook, and that really what ignited me. And I want to thank God for you to ignite me to do this show on reparations. And we may have to do another one. If I can get Dorothy Tillman on, I want to do a show and have her come on, hopefully next week, if I can get her. But you said in your research back in 1990, 2 times the United States government gave $1.6 billion to the Japanese Americans, which means they got $20,000 apiece. That's what you put in there. Yes, sir. Isn't that something?
They never gave us one red dime, not a penny.
Nothing. And I did. The last thing was from 1865. And these are your documents, and I love them. From 1865 to this present night, the United States has given black Americans a big old fat $0 from slavery to Jim Crow. Look at that.
I'm looking at the documentation I put on Facebook right after we speak. You're speaking 100% correct, Reverend.
That's right. That's right. So we need to get something. Everybody has gotten their share of some type of reparations, and this will certainly turn the tide of how many of us as black people feel about white America, that you don't care. And in order for you to care, like they say, put your money where your mouth is. If you say you love me, there you go. Go ahead.
I posted right then, Reverend, about this reparation thing so the whole world can see it.
That's right.
But one more thing I got a problem with.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, they have a tendency of thinking they don't owe us anything. But it wasn't for slavery. This country living on slavery, standing on its shoulder, slavery back.
Yes.
The economy wouldn't be nothing. This country wouldn't be anything without slavery.
Go ahead.
If it wasn't for cotton, Back in those days, tobacco and oranges, but basically cotton.
Yes. Yeah.
The economics in this country wouldn't be nothing.
Wouldn't be nothing. They had them sugar canes in North Carolina,
right.
as we know about.
Something to do with picking.
Yeah.
With nothing sitting down.
Nothing.
Especially down that Mississippi Delta we came from, all that hot cotton crossing fields.
No, man. Oh, that was hard labor. That had to be hard labor, man. Chopping and picking cotton had to be some hard labor. And my daddy wouldn't let me do it. He wouldn't let me. I wanted to chop some cotton, make about $30 a day, but that was when I was a kid. But, I know they made a whole lot less than that when you was about 10 in 1968.
When I was coming through there, got $5 a day. I was mowing grass around my little hometown, Cleveland, could make me $15, $20 a day mowing grass.
Yes.
I thought it was not intelligent. We go chop nobody's cotton.
Right.
Well, he said, Dad, look, I don't own no cotton, Dad. I'm not chopping no cotton, so I'm not going to do that.
That's right.
So I mowed the grass, watched a few cars. I did a hustling, but hey, I had to eat. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Yep, you had to eat. So, Mr. Moore, I thank God again for having you on 2 times. So, we got to make it 3 times a charm. So, we're going to have to bring you back in the summertime because we're going to do this reparations at least once every 2 or 3 months because I'm not going to let it go, Doc, until somebody blesses us, which is something that needs to be done. Reparations need to happen. It's got to happen. It's just that.
Well, I got one thing to say, Reverend, before we go. I know you got to go.
Go ahead.
But I have quite a few conversations with a lot of Caucasian guys about reparations, different things. And a lot of guys would say to me, well, Big O, I don't have anything to do with my great-grandfather, my dad, and them did to your people. Well, hold on, let me rephrase that. Did he leave a will back here? And you guys inherit all his money and his wealth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you don't think you have to do what your grandparents done, or your foreparents done to my parents, well, give some of that money back.
That's right. Give some of it back.
You don't inherit something that you know you didn't work for, you didn't earn.
That's right. That's right.
Now, what makes you think you got a right to earn the money that my grandparents worked? And we had to scrap up money to bury my granddad, but yours get put away in carriages and limousines.
Come on, man. Come on. You're right. So what's the Christian thing to do? They up in churches on Sunday morning. These white Americans up in church talking about they love the Lord and all of that. You love the Lord that much, then take care of your brother. Take care of us. It's just that simple.
Do the right thing. Don't tell me what you didn't do, because you didn't.
That's right.
But you inherited all this money, didn't it? We made a thing called a wheel out and left you the land and all his fortune.
Exactly. I'm telling you.
Including Donald Trump. They left his folks left him money too back here.
Yes. Certainly did.
He inherited all his wealth. He ain't earned nothing.
No. Ain't earned nothing. That's reparations. What is that? That's reparations, or it's a gift. Whichever one it is, it's either a gift or it's a reparation. So everybody needs a hand. Everybody needs a helping hand. You can't make it in this world all by yourself. So we help them. We help them build this country, right?
Look here, Reverend, they came to America and stole America from the Native Indians.
That's it.
And come back 7,000 miles and brought us back and worked the land for free.
That's it.
So you tell me what they did.
There you go. Come on. So I'm cleared on it. I don't want my case tonight. Me and you don't want the case. Reparations needs to happen. And we're going to keep talking about it until freedom comes to Black Americans. I don't care if I turn 80 or 85. I'm going to keep on living until we get reparations in this country. That could possibly happen in my lifetime. And I'm going to keep fighting until that happens. So I'm so glad, Brother Moore.
I got one thing to say.
Go ahead.
That Reverend Jesse L. Jackson said, I love the man for this here. He always said one thing: we don't want welfare.
No, sir.
We want our share.
We want our share, and we're going to get a share. We got to level the playing field, and that's just the way it's going to be. So with God on our side, Brother Moore, we will make it to the promised land. And I thank God for you, and I'll be definitely talking to you beyond this show. Okay, and we thank you for being with us on tonight. Okay.
All right, Reverend. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. I'll get a copy of the tape out or the show out to you later. Okay. Thank you,
sir.
Bye-bye. There you've been listening to one of my great friends, a researcher of the wonderful talk on reparations. Join us next week as we'll be back here on the 8th of April talking more about Dream Makers 365. And again, we wish you peace and soul power. God bless you. Hang in there. God is on his way to bless Black America. Bye now.